Hello, this is the Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, Book 9, with some thoughts afterwards. Section 1. He sins who acts unjustly. All rational creatures, by nature's deep design and purpose, are created for one another. They are meant to help those who deserve help and in no way to harm one another. He who shrugs off the will of nature sins against the oldest of the gods. He who tells lies sins against the same God. Nature is the basis for everything that is, and everything that is intimately connected with everything that ever was. Truth is just another name for nature, the first cause of everything. He who lies with the intent of deceiving another sins by acting unjustly. But he who lies unintentionally sins by striking a discordant note with nature and by opposing the profound harmony of the universe. By opposing the truth, even unwittingly, the liar declares war on nature and loses through neglect his God-given ability to discern what is true and what is false. He also sins who pursues pleasures as if they were good, and flees hardships as if they were evil. Seeing how often evildoers enjoy pleasures and acquire things that bring pleasure, while decent folk suffer hardships and encounter things that cause pain, this sort of person cannot help but blame nature for handing out pleasures and hardships indiscriminately. Moreover, the person afraid of hardships is at odds with something that is going to happen as part of the natural order of things, and this is sinful. Likewise, the person panting after pleasure will not hesitate to act unjustly, and this is clearly sinful. Nature would not provide for both pleasures and hardships were she not indifferent to both. And those who would follow nature and be of one mind with her must be indifferent when she is indifferent. Whoever then fails to follow nature by being indifferent to hardship and pleasure, death and life, obscurity and flame, that person obviously offends the gods. Now, by saying that nature uses these things indifferently, I mean that all things follow from one another in a sequence begun by the original impulse of providence and continuing in accordance with certain ordering principles and generative powers such as matter, change, and succession. Part 2. It would be best never to have tasted deceit, hypocrisy, luxury, and pride, but the next best course would be, despising these things, to push away from the table. Do you choose instead to persist in these evils? Has experience not convinced you to flee this plague? Is not the corruption of your mind and soul a plague far more deadly than any pollution or contamination in the air you breathe? This plague attacks us only as animals, but that destroys our humanity. Part 3. Don't fear death, but give it a friendly greeting. Nature sends it along with everything else. Like youth and old age, growing up and reaching one's prime, growing teeth and a beard and white hair, besetting and conceiving and bearing children, our disillusion is just one of life's natural processes. A man who has given it any thought will never approach death carelessly, hastily, or scornfully, but he will wait for it as he would for any natural process. As you now wait for the unborn child to burst from your wife's womb, so should you anticipate the moment when your soul will slip from its shell. But if your trembling heart needs a cruder form of reassurance, consider the worth of the material objects you're leaving behind and the morals of those with whom you'll no longer have to associate. Although it's your job to treat them gently and compassionately, and not to criticize them, it's fair to bear in mind that you are not parting from like-minded men. This alone, if nothing else, could drag you back from the brink of death and force you to go on living, the company of kindred spirits. But as it is, so great is the weariness of living in discord with your fellow men that you say, "Come quickly, death, lest I, like them, forget myself." 4. The sinner sins against himself. The unjust man does injustice to himself by making himself bad. 5. Injustice results as often from not doing as from doing. 6. It is enough when you are thinking objectively, behaving courageously, and feeling easy about circumstances outside your control. 7. Blot out imagination, restrain impulse, stifle desire, give your reason the upper hand. 8. One vital spirit is distributed among the animals, and one rational spirit is allotted to mankind. There is also one earth for all creatures that live on the earth, and share a single light by which they see, and a single atmosphere by which they breathe. 9. Things that share a common element or characteristic are naturally drawn to one another. Earthy objects gravitate towards the earth, and fluids tend to flow together, as do gases, so that only barriers and force can keep them apart. Fire leaps toward the sun, the elemental fire, and is so eager to join other fires that objects with the least dryness, lacking the ingredients necessary to resist, will enable it to break out. In the same way, those who share the one rational spirit are eager to join their own kind, nay, even more eager, since the tendency to mix and mingle with their own kind is in proportion to their superiority over other things. Note, for example, that in animals without reason we find bees in swarms, cattle in herds, birds in flocks, and similar love groupings. The vital spirit present in these makes the grouping tendency much stronger than it is in plants or rocks or trees. And in rational creatures we see cities and friendships, families and assemblies, while in wartime there are treaties and truces. And in the case of superior things like stars, we discover a kind of unity and separation. The higher we rise in the scale of being, the easier it is to discern a connection even among things separated by vast distances. Look what happens now. Only rational creatures now forget their attraction to one another. Only among them do we fail to see convergence and agreement. But even as they flee from one another, they keep running into themselves, for nature is too strong for them. Pay close attention, and you'll see what I mean. You are more likely to find a clod of earth detached from the earth than a man entirely cut off from mankind. 10. Everything bears fruit. Man, the god, the universe, each in its own season. It doesn't matter that this manner of speaking is customarily reserved for the vine and other plants. Reason also bears fruit both for itself and for everything else, and all its fruit tastes of sweet reasonableness. 11. If you can, change their evil ways by teaching them. If that doesn't work, remember that kindness is a virtue you possess for this very situation. The gods themselves are kind to such men, and sometimes even assist them in their efforts to become healthy or wealthy or famous. You can do the same. What is stopping you? 12. Work hard, not like a slave who looks for pity or praise, but as one who strives single-mindedly to discharge his social obligations. 13. Today, I got out of trouble. Or rather, I got trouble out of me. The trouble was not outside, but inside, and depended on my point of view. 14. Everything's the same. Experience is banal, time is fleeting, and matter is corrupt. It's just what it was in the days of those we've buried. 15. Outside the door lies the world of things, a world unto itself. Things have no knowledge of themselves, nor can they speak for themselves. Who can know and speak for them? The discerning mind. 16. Good and evil lie in a rational and social being's deeds, not in his feelings. Likewise, virtue and vice are terms applied to deeds, not feelings. 17. To a stone thrown up in the air, there is no evil in falling, nor good in rising. 18. Delve into what motivates and governs them, and you will expose the critics you fear and see what poor critics they are of themselves. 19. All is change. You yourself are continuously changing and being destroyed bit by bit. So is the whole universe. 20. Another's wrongdoing, leave it alone. 21. The conclusion of an activity, the end, or what might be called the death of an impulse or opinion, there's no evil in these. Look at the various stages of life, childhood, boyhood, manhood, old age, each ended in a kind of death. Was it so dreadful? Think now about the life you lived with your grandfather, then with your mother, then with your father. Looking at these and all the other changes, transformations, and endings that have happened in your life, ask yourself, was there anything to be feared in all this? No. No more than in the end, the cessation, the transformation of life itself. 22. Make haste to examine your own mind, the mind of the universe and the mind of your neighbor. Your own mind, to make sure it is just. The mind of the universe, to remind yourself of what you are apart. Your neighbor's mind, to figure out whether he acted knowingly or out of ignorance, and while doing this to reflect that he is your brother. 23. Just as you are part of the whole community, each of your actions should contribute to the whole life of the community. Any action of yours that fails directly or remotely to make this contribution fragments the life of the community and jeopardizes its unity. It's a rebellious act, like the man in a town meeting who holds himself aloof and refuses to come to any agreement with his neighbors. 24. Children's temper tantrums, games of make-believe, and little breasts sustaining corpses. Homer's underworld is more solid than this. 25. Get at the underlying cause of a thing and study it apart from its material effects. Then determine how long this type of cause can sustain its effects. 26. You have suffered 1,000 ills because you are not content to be ruled by reason as nature intended. Stop. Enough. 27. When men hate or blame you, or say hurtful things about you, look deeply into their hearts and see what kind of men they are. You'll see how unnecessary it is to strain after their good opinion. Yet you must still think kindly of them. They are your neighbors. The gods help them, as they do you, by dreams and oracles to win their heart's desires. 28. Up and down, from age to age, the world's repeating cycles are the same. Either the cosmic mind initiates everything individually, in which case, welcome whatever it initiates, or else it initiated things once for all time, and every subsequent effect serves also as a cause. Destiny or atoms, what does it matter? If God is discharging every detail, then all is well. And if everything's a matter of chance, still, you don't have to be ruled by chance. The earth will soon cover us all. Then the earth itself will change, and that changed earth will change again and then again, changing into eternity. Anyone who contemplates these endless waves of change and transformation will look with indifference on every mortal thing. 29. The cosmic cause is an onrushing flood that carries all before it. How piddling are these little men who play the statesmen and imagine they act like philosophers, drooling toddlers. What does it take to be a man? Do what nature demands at this moment. Just do it if you can, and don't be looking around to see if someone is watching. Don't look for Plato's Republic either. Be content if you can take a small step and know that even this is no mean feat, for you're not going to change their hearts, and failing that, all is pretense. Only slavish obedience and whining submission are possible. Go ahead and tell me about Alexander, Philip, or Demetrius of Phalerum. If they were schooled by nature, that's their business. But if they merely acted the part of tragic heroes, no one has condemned me to follow their lead. Simplicity and modesty are the roots of philosophy. Keep me from becoming pompous and proud. "30. Look down from the sky at all the herds of men. Their countless ceremonies, their endless voyages to and fro, in both calm and storm, and the amazing diversity of creatures that are born, make a life with one another and disappear. Imagine the life of those who lived long ago, or the life of those who will live after you are dead, or the life now being lived in distant foreign lands. How many don't even know your name? How many who do will soon forget it? How many who praise you today will slander you tomorrow? Memory, fame, and the like, all counterfeit." 31. When facing whatever happens outside your control, be calm. When taking actions for which you are responsible, be fair. In other words, whether acting or reacting, your aim is the aid and betterment of others in fulfillment of nature's laws. 32. Many of the things that trouble you are easily disposed of, for they are all in your mind. Instead of dwelling on them in such cramped quarters, why not inhabit spacious chambers by taking into your mind the whole wide world, the vast expanse of eternity, the swift succession of change in the smallest parts of everything? How short is the span between birth and death, how bottomless the abyss before birth, and boundless the gulf after death. 33. What you now see will soon perish, and those who watch it perish will pass away themselves no less quickly. The man who outlives all his friends will join the friend he lost as a boy in the grave. 34. Examine their guiding principles. What sort of things do they go after? What sort of people inspire their love and admiration? Cast a cold eye on their naked little souls. These are the same who think that their jeers sting or their cheers warm. What presumption! 35. Loss and change. Two words for the same thing. Nature rejoices in change. Through her, all things come into being and are arranged in the same way as they were at the beginning and will be to the end. How, then, can you say that everything is coming out badly and is bound to come out badly in the end? How, then, can you say that not all the gods in heaven have the power to set things right? How, then, can you say that an ill wind is fated to blow through the world forever? 36. The decay at the core of everything renders water, dust, bones, stench. Marble is simply age-hardened slabs of earth, gold and silver sediments of earth, fine clothing, the hair of animals, purple dye, the blood of fish, and so on. Our very breath is the same, constantly passing from one lung to the next. 37. Enough of this pathetic way of life, this continual complaining and aping of others. Why worry? There's nothing new for you to get all worked up about. If the causes of things disturb you, then look to them. Or is it the things themselves? Then take a hard look at them. Formal cause and material effect, that's all there is. What matters at this late date is to be simpler and better in the eyes of God. This is so whether you ponder the meaning of life for 300 years or 3. 38. If he did wrong, then he harms himself. And what if he did no wrong? 39. Everything either springs from a single intelligent source that rules it as the mind does the body, in which case no part should complain about what is organized for the good of the whole, or everything is made up of atoms, randomly mixing and dispersing. So why do you worry? Say to your true, independent, and governing self, you're dead. You're a rotting corpse. You've decided to become an actor and play a wild beast running with the herd. Well then, eat grass. 40. Either the gods are powerful, or they are powerless. If they are powerless, why bother praying? But if they are powerful, why not ask them to free you from the fear or desire or sorrow caused by something, rather than asking them to give or withhold the thing itself? The gods help men at all. This is surely the way they do it. But you might object that the gods have left these things up to me. Well, if that is the case, is it not better to use freely what is left up to you than to beg slavishly for what is out of your hands? Who told you that the gods do not also help us with the things they leave up to us? Begin to pray this way and see what happens. One man prays, "Help me seduce this woman," but you pray instead, "Prevent me from lusting after her." Another prays, "Rid me of my enemy," but you pray, "Rid me of the desire to be rid of my enemy." Another, "Do not take my dear child from me," but you, "May I not fear the loss of my child." Turn your prayers in this direction and see what comes of it. 41. During my illness, says Epicurus, I never talked about my aches or pains, or bothered those who came to see me with such trifles. Rather, I continued to discuss the fundamental principles of science, in particular how the mind, while fully aware of all the body's movements, remains unmoved and attends to its own good. Nor did I submit to the doctors, he continued, and give them a chance to boast of their medical experience and make a fuss over me, but I just lived my life in good health and spirits. Whether in sickness, if you are sick, or in any other circumstance, be like Epicurus. Let no difficulty or hardship cause you to abandon philosophy or to tune into the gossip of the foolish and uneducated. On this piece of advice, all schools of philosophy are agreed. Keep to the task at hand and to the tool you possess for completing it. 42. Whenever somebody's shameless behavior offends you, immediately ask yourself, can there be a world without shameless people in it? Of course not. Don't demand the impossible. This is just another one of those shameless people whom the world cannot be without. Keep the same question handy for scoundrels, cheaters, and other kinds of wrongdoers. By bearing in mind that there are bound to be people like this, you will find individuals like this easier to endure. At the same time, ask yourself, what virtue has nature given me to cope with this vice? The antibody against loutish behavior, for example, is gentleness. Against every vice, there is a power to combat it, and, broadly speaking, you have the power to help any man find his way. The wrongdoer is, after all, merely missing his true mark and has lost his way. Besides, how has he harmed you? None of those with whom you're upset has done a thing to impair your ability to think, and no evil or harm can come to you except your thinking let it. What's so bad or surprising about the ignoramus who acts out of ignorance? Find fault instead with yourself for failing to anticipate his offensive behavior. Your ability to reason should have told you that he would misbehave, but you refused to listen and are now shocked by his misbehavior. Indeed, whenever you feel inclined to blame someone for deceit or ingratitude, turn that accusation upon yourself. Obviously, the fault lies with you if you trusted a liar to keep his word, or if you did a good deed with some string attached and without expecting the doing of the deed to be its own reward. Having done a good deed, what more do you want? Isn't it enough to have acted in harmony with your nature? Do you need to be paid for it as well? Do the eyes demand payment for seeing, or the feet wages for walking? Just as these organs were made for what they do and find fulfillment in doing what they were made to do, so too are men made by nature for one another. Whenever they perform a good deed or contribute to the common good in some way, They do what they were made to do and receive all that is theirs. Okay. Some commentary. Well, first of all, I've had a migraine all day, so this may be a little shorter than usual, but I say that all the time, so we'll see. But starting here, number one, he sins who acts unjustly, right? And it's an interesting translation, right? It sins, does something bad, does something against God. And notably later here, he equates truth and nature. Truth is just another name for nature, the first cause of everything. And I think that's something important to sort of look at, because the word nature is used quite often. And how should we interpret that? How should we interpret God here? Sins who acts unjustly, right? He who tells lies sins against the same God. This is something interesting, and I'm not really an expert in ancient Roman religions or God here, but you can see a sort of equivalence between God, truth, and nature that shows up in this passage. And Marcus Aurelius is not a Christian. We're not in monotheocracy here. Marcus Aurelius is a Roman with Roman gods and with even the ancestor worship of older Roman emperors. But he's also a philosopher. And the idea being that the gods, Zeus, Ares, Venus, Mercury, whatever name you put on them, are individuals in these stories and legends, but they're also emblematic of nature and the way the world works. You have Plato, for example. We want to see the truth that outshines the sun. See the truth behind the light of the sun. See the true ideals for what they are. And there's many different paths to that vision, right? But it's like, a deep connection with God and nature and truth, and it's defined differently depending on what religion or philosophy you use. But I think the idea itself is recognizable in many ways. It's like, what is really going on here? What is the spark of life? What is the rule of nature? Is there life and death? Why are we alive? How do things work? What is good and what is evil? These great questions that we're trying to access the knowledge of so that we can live a happier, healthier, better, more true life in accord with nature. Because another idea which Marcus sort of points out here is, why are you unhappy? Well, you're unhappy because you were living against nature, specifically against your nature, against reason, against truth, against the way the world is supposed to work. He talks about some ideas here where he suggests that the world follows from one idea, and it's interesting reading something like this, because you can see echoes of this in like Christian theology, because it grew out of the Greek philosophy. It had to deal, that is the Christian religion had to deal with at least the remnants of Greek philosophy, which were strong enough to modify a religion which begins as essentially Judaism and these rules you're supposed to follow, into a whole system of philosophy where you have doctrinal arguments back and forth in Europe for 1,000 years about the nature of God and truth. Eventually, Greek philosophy is brought back through the Crusades, essentially, and it is strong enough to overthrow Christianity itself. by introducing science and questions, by showing that some of the reasons of reason itself are more complicated than just bow down your head and worship. And this is really what Marcus Aurelius is getting at, I feel, when he talks about nature and truth and God. He's saying that I myself, as a human being, am complex, but also simple. And the world itself is also complex, but also simple. You know, there is something to be found here, and really it's a matter of, there's no one answer. There's no, these are the rules you follow, ding, 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 and you're happy and you're good and you're healthy and you live forever, right? When you die and you go to heaven, there's none of that. It's just, this is the rules I follow. This is my own internal reason. It is simultaneously the most selfish and the most selfless philosophy, right? It's selfish because I am the reason. I am the font of reality and truth. I am descended from gods and nature, and I am one with gods and nature and truth, because when I die, I become part of the great cycle and circle of life, Hakuna Matata. And at the same time, I am a member of my community, and I don't really understand, I don't really control other people, and I am not responsible for their bad deeds, and I can choose to be kind and help them and show them the way to happiness and a better life and a truer life, right? I'm not doing that by forcing them to follow my reason. I'm doing it by showing them their own reason, right? You, like, the basis of Western philosophy is Socratic questioning. Just keep asking a question, because it's not about telling you what's right or wrong, good or bad. It's about making you tell me what's right or wrong, good or bad. What do you actually think? What do you actually believe? How do you actually defend your arguments? Are they strong enough? Have you yourself, in your religion, your philosophy, or your political theory, struggled with the deep, great issues? Have you felt doubts and overcome them? Have you suffered and continued in your route, even with that suffering, because you think that it will lead to a better day, a better way? You know, have you traveled the hard road to truth? Or are you simply sitting in front of the gate saying, look, I see it? Right. He says here, he who also sins, who pursues pleasures as if they were good and flees hardships as if they were evil. And this is a very interesting sentence, I think. Nature would not provide for both pleasures and hardships were she not indifferent to both. And those who would follow nature and be of one mind with her must be indifferent when she is indifferent. Sometimes bad things happen to us. Sometimes good things happen to us. Sometimes we get pleasures. Sometimes we get displeasures. And are those the same thing? Are good and bad the same as pleasure and displeasure? You know, pleasures and hardship. Hardships more like... And he's basically saying here, I think, no, pleasure is not good necessarily. Hardships are not bad necessarily. Sometimes a pleasure turns out to be bad, right? That is, you can shoot up with a drug, or you can drink yourself senseless, and you're happy-ish for a while, but you wake up the next day with a pounding headache, right? Or you wake up the next day addicted and needing your next fix, or so on and so on. Name any choice you make that turns out bad the next day, or which you immediately regret. Likewise, a hardship can be good or bad, right? Sometimes you are engaged in a hike, or you're engaged in chasing after a job, or engaged in learning, and it doesn't work out, and you're like, man, hardships suck. But sometimes hardships work out, and you are rewarded for this. So, at the beginning, right, you don't know whether this pleasure or this hardship is good or bad. Therefore, you should be indifferent to the choice of pleasure or hardship, because one of them may turn out good or one of them may turn out bad. Nature, that is truth, the world is indifferent to pleasure or hardship. They are not always good or always bad, depending on what they are, right? It is down to the individual choices and results. This hardship is not the same as the other hardship, and this pleasure is not the same as the other pleasure. It's about seeing, she's suggesting you want to look at the world clearly, and the way I read it, right, is that rules, specific, this is my rule, and this is my rule, and this is my rule, are not necessarily the best way of living a life or of being happy. Instead, he follows this one idea, right? Accordance with reason. That is understanding the moments and the world and the events at the time and how they are separate from others, how they are different, how they are unique, how they are strange. Every day is a new day, and yet every day is also connected to all the other days. There's no one true answer. There's just a guidance. Listen to yourself. Be calm. Be focused. Do not be concerned overmuch with pleasure or pain or hardship or others. Continue on your path. Chase your own happiness. Chase your own peace of mind. This is the best you can do. This is all you can control. This is to be stoic. And this, so number 2 here, right? It would be best never to have tasted deceit, hypocrisy, luxury, and pride. But the next best course would be, despising these things, to push away from the table. And why? Why are deceit, hypocrisy, luxury, and pride bad? Because they corrupt your mind. And that is far, far worse, he says, than any sickness. This plague only attacks us as animals, but that destroys our humanity. If I am sick and tired, if I'm coughing up blood, if my arms and legs are broken, then this is hardship, this is suffering. If my head is pounding and I'm seeing auras and my vision is going in and out for an hour, these are hardships. These are things that happen to us. But they are not enough to control us. They are not enough to make me the person I am. I may have suffered, I may have enjoyed, but at the end of the day, I am still me. And why am I me? What makes me me? My mind, my heart, my soul, the way I act specifically. How I act and how I feel and how I think and how I reason and how I live. It's not about the terrible things or the plagues, the horrors or the tortures or the destruction. It is, as long as I exist and I have my own mind, my own belief in my head, as long as I make the choices, then I will not suffer. Because I am the choices I make. I am the reason that is humanity. That is the mind. That is why deceit, hypocrisy, luxury, and pride are so much worse, because they actually corrupt my spirit. Right? They corrupt my mentality. They corrupt the way I live. And if I'm even able to be happy. How many people have we heard that say something like, I attained all these riches, I attained all this fame, but I was never happy. Because you had pride and you had luxury. And it wasn't enough for you. It was what you really needed. I think that it's like anything else, right? Riches and glory can help with happiness, but they do not determine it. A worm crawling in the mud may be more content with their life than the eagle flying above. And for humanity, for human beings, I've been speaking with the spirit and the soul, but it's not even, it's not clear that's what he's talking about. It's more about in this life, today, not the afterlife. Who cares about that? I'll be dead, it'll be gone, right? Or I'll be reborn and we'll be happy, or I'll be up in heaven, or I'll be up in hell, or who knows what, right? Doesn't matter. We don't know. Enough with that. I'm living today. I have my reason. And this is how I walk and perform. This is because I'm a human being, and the core of my soul is reason. The core of me is my mind. The core of my choices is how I make choices. It's not whether I suffer or am blind. Okay, then 7 here. Blot out imagination, restrain impulse, stifle desire, give your reason the upper hand. Okay, so this is interesting. Like, how do you interpret this? In one way, you'd want to interpret it by saying, like, be very stoic in the modern sense. Be unfeeling. Do not be imaginative. Do not act quickly with your impulses. Don't desire things. You are a rock, live as a rock. But in these older viewpoint that I think is a more correct viewpoint here, right? A more philosophical viewpoint. What he's actually saying is that reason needs to control impulse, desire, and imagination. It is fine to imagine how to solve a problem. It is fine to imagine the warmth of a fire when you're walking through the cold. Why? Because that inspires you to go forward, inspires you to keep walking. If you are on a 3-day march in the middle of the mountains and you're imagining ice, or you're just being a rock, and this is going to be very difficult. But if I say to myself, I will picture the flame, I will picture the warmth, I will picture the log cabin we are arriving at, I will picture good food, and I just need to take another step and I'll get there. One more step, one more step, one more step, one more step, one more step. It's not about destroying imagination, impulse, and desire. It is about utilizing it. Don't let your desire control your reason, or your imagination become so mixed with impossible events, right? I imagine that my dead son will walk through the door one day. I imagine that I will find a pot of gold in my backyard. I imagine that my greatest enemy will come begging for forgiveness. I imagine that this problem will be solved or that problem will be solved. I imagine that I am in a great hall surrounded by feasting, and all I do is imagine and imagine, and I sit in my bed and I imagine, what if I win $1 billion? I'll do this and this and this, and I'll invest in that business, and I'll give money away here, and I'll build this house, and I'll so and so and so on. This ends up doing nothing. You simply let imagination rule your reason, and you never act. The same with impulse. If you move from impulse to impulse to impulse and never stop and think for just a second, what results from your action? Is this impulse actually good for you? Will this keep you going? Can you continue with this impulse, right? Like, we make impulse buys all the time. I made an impulse buy of a flute and a violin because I told myself I'm gonna learn those one day, and it turns out I'm not very brought into a state where I practice them. I'd rather read or speak or listen to music or paint. And my reason would go, okay, will I actually work on the violin? Will I actually play this? Right? And it turns out no. Like, I should have, I bought the violin first, then I bought the flute, and I'm like, you know what? Why did I buy a flute? I don't need to practice the violin. Like, my reason says I shouldn't have gotten that thing, but I let my impulse take it over, and now I get to stare at it every day going, darn, I'm so weak. I'm so undirected. I have so little breath. I blow on it, and I'm like, okay, I do not have breath control for this flute. And I have to find instructions and probably a video and figure out the fingering, and okay, I'll do that tomorrow, maybe. I'll sit down for an hour, and I never do. Right? In the sense, impulse can be useful. It can be good. How many times have you ever been in a situation you go, okay, I feel a sudden impulse to say something to this person, or I feel a sudden impulse to take this action, or I feel a sudden impulse to get the hell out of here because something's going down. And that impulse can be useful, it can be good, it can help, it can save your life. It can lead you to a new world. And the same with desire, right? If you desire and desire and you want and you want and you want and you're never filled and you're never happy, this is terrible. Your life sucks. On the other hand, if you never desire anything at all, then you are a rock. Why are you alive? What's the point? If you're just here to survive. What do you need to do? You thrive. You desire a better life. So you chase after the better life and you create the better life. But you need to do it in accord with reason, not to have a desire which never be filled, but to utilize your desire to push yourself. I desire warmth, so I'm going to imagine a flame And I'm going to use this desire to push the imagination, which is going to ignite an impulse in me to continue walking through the snow. And that's how I use my reason to invigorate myself. Just as one small example. The key word here is give your reason the upper hand. Understand who you are and what you want and how you work. And instead of being blind to yourself, see yourself clearly, understand your own system for working out. Understand the reason that is you. Not just the logic, the reason. In both senses, I would say. Okay. 12. Work hard, not like a slave who looks for pity or praise, but as one who strives single-mindedly to discharge his social obligations. And that is interesting here, right? Because he's talking about duty. Talking about the need to fulfill your duty, right? I blew the leaves off the sidewalk, my neighbor's sidewalk. I didn't have to. No one praised me. No one said thank you. It's just that I've walked past that sidewalk way too many times when the leaves are, half deep. I've seen people walking their dogs walk around the giant leaf pile that my neighbor never cleans up. And so I had a blower in my hand. I say, hey, I got this. I'm cleaning off the leaves in my house. I may as well go around to his house and blow the leaves off there. I mean, why not? What does it take me? 5 minutes? It took me a little more than 5 minutes. But that's a different story. And what he's saying here is, work hard, and not because someone is forcing you, not because someone is going to praise you and say how great you are, but because you will feel better after doing that. You will feel better for having worked hard. You will have this not necessarily pride, I would say. It doesn't quite fit pride, because he's using pride like the word vanity. And this is the distinction, I think. There's a distinction between pride and vanity, which he doesn't really make here, in this translation at least, is not made. And so it's like, why do we work hard? It turns out that sometimes we work hard because our reason tells us we should. That this is a moral action, or that this is an action which is for the betterment of the community, right? Because I know that I have at other times walked out there, seen the leaf pile, and thought somebody should do something about that. And the next year, somebody should do something about that. And the next year, somebody should do something about that. And then one year I go and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do something about that. And then I can take my own pride in it, right? And I can recognize that I've injured myself by thinking, gosh darn it, why won't he ever clean his bloody leaves up? Well, you know what? He won't. It's like it's what Marcus says, right? Look, recognize who the people are. They're not deceiving you. They're not lying to you, saying they're better than they are or worse than they are. They're people, right? And there may be 1,000 reasons. Your neighbor could have hurt his leg, right? Your neighbor maybe wasn't at home. Your neighbor doesn't have a leaf blower for this to happen. I don't know all those reasons. Well, I do in this case because I know my neighbor. But, theoretically, I don't know all those reasons why somebody does something. I'm walking down the street and there's a beggar, or there's someone screaming, or there's someone crying, or there's someone just like saying, thank you for giving me the card at the grocery store. And you take people as they are, but also take yourself as you are. Right? If you have to be forced into working, then you're doing, I would say, the wrong work. I guess that's an idea for me, right? Because I've been doing like my entire life. I'm like, what do I want to do? What do I want to do? What is the work I want to choose, right? And the old adage comes in: if it's work you enjoy, it's not work. So instead of doing work that gets me money, I'm like, what do I do that I can do every single day, right? What do I do naturally anyway? What is my reason telling me I can do and enjoy doing and have a good life doing and feel like I fulfilled a duty or an obligation or have that same sense of action? Because we often have this purposeless in our lives. We go to work, we go to school, and we go, why am I even here? I could be replaced in a day. I'm just another person with a degree that doesn't lead to a job immediately. And I have to fight and struggle. And then, like, even when you're applying for PhDs, you're like, okay, do I really want this? And I'm going, I don't know why. I feel like I can do it. And I feel like I can philosophize on the rest of my life. So I guess I'll try for that. But it's not for a specific reason. It's not like there's someone I want to work with. Like, oh my gosh, I want to study with that person. Or I really want to get into ancient Sumerian text. Or I want to learn to, translate some of the thousands of Chinese philosophy that hasn't been moved over yet. And, the idea is unclear. And he's saying, well, if people are forcing, how do you figure out what to do? Well, on the one hand, if people are forcing you to do it, or if you're doing it just because other people tell you that it's great that you're that kind of person, right? If you're volunteering just because you get accolades, then you're doing it wrong. You're working, but you're working according to someone else's command, not your own inner command. And it's not to say that being forced to do something or winning praise is necessarily a bad thing, but it shouldn't rule you. Again, that reason should rule you, not these feelings which are never matched, not these feelings which fade, not these feelings which need to be fed over and over and over again. Like it is entirely a different feeling, right? To say, oh, here is a ribbon I got for first place in the county fair, or here is a plaque of appreciation I got, 10 years ago, and I'm proud and happy that I did that work, and I feel as if I achieved my duty and so on. But it's another thing to have the trophy case filled with your trophies, and you go into like, this is where I got second place, this year got third place. I'm like, okay, right? Or go, oh, great, that's great. You have 40 trophies. What have you done recently? And you're like, I fell out of the top. And you feel horrible, right? And the person who's always chasing after glory. But if that is ruling you, then you're not, or Marcus would say, happy. You're not reasoning correctly because you can never achieve your goal. And part of the philosophy that he's putting out here is that when he says follow reason, when he says control yourself, he is doing it specifically because he thinks you can achieve this goal, right? He's not going on about going to heaven. He's not going on about saving the planet. He's not going on about, deciding to fix a levee that will eventually create the nation of China. He's not talking about finding out what black holes really are, because those are external actions or external hopes that may or may not be achieved. But what you can do is internally act according to reason, accept you're going to die, deal with that, and live and thrive as the individual you are, not the outer shell that you seem. Looks like is in 16. Good and evil lie in a rational and social being's deeds, not in his feelings. Virtue and vice are terms applied to deeds, not feelings. Basically, if you do the right thing for the wrong reason, then that's evil. And if you're doing the wrong thing for the right reason, then that's good. Wait. I messed up somewhere. Okay. Isn't reason so interesting? because we try to apply logic to it and it goes back and forth. And I know what I want to say, but when it comes out of my mouth, it doesn't always fit and work. And so I have a good intention, but it comes out with me actually saying something that is the opposite of what I intended. So he's trying to say, if you do the right thing for the wrong reason, then it's still the right thing. If you do the wrong thing for the right reason, then it's still the wrong thing. The action you take is good or bad. Because the action you take is what has an effect upon the world and an effect upon you. I think there's some ambivalence here. There's some missing equivalence, right? Because sometimes I may feel that I did the right thing and it turned out badly, but I have prided myself for choosing the correct action, right? Like it's interesting. I've worked at places where there's some problem and I offer to help somebody and then they're like, oh, thank you. And I would like this extra thing. And I'm like, look, dude, I didn't have to offer you the first thing. And now you want something else and something else? Like, just be happy for the little bit I gave you. I was being nice. I was being kind. If you want me to read the rules to you, and I don't have to do it, I don't have to do a damn thing. And sometimes you have good intentions, but it turns out they take it wrongly. Or it turns out like you apologize and they take that to mean that you like are the devil. That you are admitting fault. And I'm like, no. I'm saying that I'm sorry that happened to you. I'm not saying that it isn't 130% our fault and we should never have done this at all. I'm saying that it's kind of bad, things work. I'm saying that I, as an individual, but you're taking it to mean that I, as the CEO's direct representative to you. I'm like, okay, back and forth. And at the end of that, sometimes I come out the worse, but at least I feel for myself that I did the right thing. So I think there is something to be said here. It's actions, not words, that matter. But also, we can ask, who is the action directed towards? Why am I taking this action? Is it for you? Is it to help you? Is it to assist you? Or is it to help myself, to assist myself, to make me feel unguilty, or because it will lead to me knowing that I chose the moral action in the right moment, even if it turned out badly, even if they misinterpreted what I said, right? And it's a conundrum, because sometimes we do things and I'm like, okay, is it the goal? I know how I have to lie to you in order to get the good thing done, right? I need you to do this thing and it will turn out better for you if you do it. But in order to make you do it, I have to lie to you. Like you're a little kid. Do I lie to you? It's one of those conundrums. I'm lying to you for your own benefit. I'm deceiving you. And if you were rational yourself, then you would do what I'm telling you to do, because it would turn out better for you. Instead, you're being an idiot and choosing not to do it. You're being unrational. But I, as a rational being, know the right decision. But at the same time, I'm going, I don't want to lie. I feel like I will do harm to myself by lying. And maybe you'll find out that I lied, and that will cause greater harm later in the relationship. That wasn't worth the good thing here. I mean, imagine if your brother is marrying the wrong person, and you're like, look, dude, I know you met her 3 weeks ago and you're in love, but this isn't a good idea. You don't get married 3 weeks. Bad plan. And so you come up with something to trick him out of this. You come up with something to get him away from her influence, or you come up with something to convince her that he's cheating on him. Any one of these actions that someone might take in a rom-com. Indian filmy event, right? Or but show up in a manga. Right? Or you're standing at someone's bedside and they're asking about, so and so come out safely. Is he okay? Did he get the job? And you're like, okay, yeah, I'm not gonna tell grandma that so and so didn't get the job because she's gonna pass away in about 3 hours. I'm gonna tell her he got the job, and it's all great and it's all fine because it'll make her happy. And I may feel horrible for doing that, but at the same time, I may feel good. And it's just one of those many conundrums. Like, who am I doing this action for? Is it okay to lie sometimes if it's for their benefit? But if this lying hurt me, how important are my morals in regards to them? And how should I act? But more importantly, how will I feel after this? What does my reason tell me is the correct decision? And for Marcus, it's look at the actions. When you take an action, who does that action affect? And what is the goal? What is the point of the action you take and the message you are putting out? What is the goal of the communication? Not morality, first and foremost, but before morality even. Before good and bad, it's science. It's the results. Is this based on truth? In the materials of reality sense. Okay. Uh, 27. When men hate or blame you, or say hurtful things about you, look deeply into their hearts and see what kind of men they are. You'll see how necessary it is to strain after their good opinion. You must still think kindly of them. They're your neighbors, right? Sometimes people dislike you. Sometimes people say mean things. Sometimes people are hurtful. And ask yourself, why are they saying this? Are they saying it to teach me a lesson? Are they saying it because they want to hurt me? Are they actually being hateful, or am I just misinterpreting it? Like, what is the point of their goal? Like, we were just talking about the actions. Well, those are my actions that I take. We can look at it the other way as well. When someone else takes an action, I can ask, why are they taking that action? What is their goal? What is their point? And importantly, I think, what is the reason that is ruling them right now? Are they controlled by a desire or a rage or a sadness? Are they thinking logically? Are they looking towards the future? Or are they wrapped up in their visions and feelings about the past? Why are they saying this? What is the method by which they come to let these hateful, terrible words out of their mouth? Do they need to communicate? Is there something wrong with them? They're saying, help me, the only way they can? Or are they like dangerous wild beasts and they need to be avoided? Or at least kept out of power? Right? You've been in instances with people who are very angry and you're going, sometimes you're like, man, looks like you need a hug. Like in your mind, you're thinking that. And sometimes you're thinking, you seem very dangerous and unstable. I'm going to walk away slowly and hope you don't chase after me. You're looking into the mind of the person. It's not just the action. Actions are good and bad. The results of actions in being good or bad. But behind these actions is a reason, which is much more complex than simple good or bad. Is this a good person? Is this a bad person? No. Is this a wild person, a happy person, a lonely person, a scared person, an angry person, a tortured person, a laughing person, a joking person? What is going on here? Who are they that are speaking to me? This is important, I think, especially in something like politics. For Marcus Aurelius, people are going to tell him all sorts of things. People are going to have all sorts of goals in mind. Well, if you want to interact well, be honest for yourself, but also seek honesty in other people. Try to see the world clearly. The clearer you see the world, the less you suffer from it. Because not only do you control it more, but also you got to recognize that, you know, someone yelling and screaming and being hateful towards you, that is their problem and their issue. There's not something wrong with you. And like, this is something that happened, especially to kids growing up. Daddy yells at them and they're like, oh my gosh, I must be bad. That sticks in your mind for 30 years. When really, no, you realize one day, oh no, dad was messed up. Right? No, it's their fault. Things turned out badly, not mine. I didn't do anything wrong. And that's a freeing notion, right? The understanding of, oh, I know why they said that thing now. I see who and what they are. And even if they don't. And this is sort of freedom to myself. Okay, I may have suffered in this way or that way, but I know why I suffered. I know that the place in the world I live in and exist in now. And I won't let those actions change me and hurt me who I am. The choices I make, the mind, mentality, and reason and spirit and hope. You know, I may have a arm which is not all the way working correctly, but that's just physically thing. It's just a physical issue. That is not who I am. And I can't let what somebody else said to me hurt me. Why? It can hurt me physically, of course. It can throw rocks and stones. Words can make me question who I am and what I want and if I'm good or bad or right or wrong or pride or shame and all that. But at the end of the day, it is me who decides. It is I who am responsible. Because the words they scream at me to try and hurt me with, I am the one who has to accept them, and I am the one who sees them clearly, whether they are true or false, whether they're right or wrong, why they're said, why I interpreted them in a certain way, or didn't. You gain control over your own self, your own vision of the world, not only control over manipulation. So 29 here, right? He says, what does it take to be a man? Do what nature demands at this moment. Just do it if you can and don't be looking around to see if someone is watching. Why? Why do you do it, whatever it is, when no one is watching? Because I am watching, right? Why do I clean up the leaves? Why do I go to sleep? Why do I pet the cat? Why do I draw art? Why do I talk to myself? Why do I write down poems? Why do I have notes? Why do I sit and stare at the clouds? Why do I sing in the backyard? You know, because I am watching. I am here. I know that I'm doing something. It's not about the eyes of other people. If you let the eyes of other people control you and direct you and change who you are and how you're able to act, then you lose a part of yourself. You give up your reason, you give up your independence, your authority as a human being. This doesn't mean be a wild man all the time. This doesn't mean be antisocial to an extreme degree. It means have the confidence in yourself to know who and what you are. And it's okay, I think, to have different aspects of yourself. Act a certain way with friends, as opposed to family, as opposed to in a business relationship. These different aspects are fine because they're all part of me and who I am. As long as I'm not pretending, right? Be content if you can take a small step. I know that even this is no mean feat, because if I take one small step, then I am doing something which no other person in this entire world can do. I am changing who I am. Right? I'm not going to change their hearts. I'm not going to make someone love me or hate me or know me. I'm not going to make someone worship me or despise me. They decide that, how they react and how they feel for my actions. And I keep this in mind. I may be careful. I may be cognizant of my surroundings. I am polite. But at the end of the day, I'm going to die. And they're going to die. And all this is dust. And what in the earth am I doing playing this game? When I should just be myself. And be myself with the understanding that I am a human being in society. I am a member of my culture. I am a person of the times. But I'm also a living rhyme. Right? Simplicity and modesty are the fruits of philosophy. Keep me from becoming pompous and proud. Simplicity and modesty are the fruits of philosophy. Trying to understand the world, chasing after wisdom, self-reflecting, being reasonable, lead to simplicity and modesty. In order to be happy, do not need all these fancy things. They are simply extra. Let all the books burn. In my library, I can find them again. I can write them again. I have read them. They are me inside. And thus complexity becomes simplicity by filtering through my mind and my reason. And modesty, if I'm not affected by others, then I'm only affected by myself. If I know who and what I am, then I don't need to feel vanity. I don't need other people to look at me. I don't need to act pompous. I know who I am. I need no pretending. I need no acting. Simply turn the correct facet towards the correct situation. I simply utilize my reason as best I can, having confidence in who and what I am. Right, 34, examine their guiding principles. What sort of things do they go after? What sort of people inspire the love and admiration? Cast a cold eye on their naked little souls. These are the same who think that their jeers sting or their cheers warm. What presumption. Right? There's a saying which is something similar to this in spirit, I would say. It's like, I've seen who you praise. Your jeers mean nothing to me. I've seen what you praise. Your jeers mean nothing to me. Right? If someone is insulting or praising you, ask what are their guiding principles. Why are they doing this? What are they insulting or praising? Are they saying, how dare you be so radical? Or are they saying, oh my gosh, you're so pretty? And it's all about how pretty or amazing you look and nothing about your personality. Well, then you know exactly what their guiding principle is. Are they attacking you by saying you're ugly or fat? Well, then you know what their guiding principle is, why they're doing that. You know, in politics, don't listen to what people say. Don't listen to their words. What are the principles? What are the actions they take and what results do those actions have? It's not about the dialectic. It's not about the dialogue. It's not about the back and forth. It's not about the rhetoric. It's not about the arguments. What are the actions? What do they reveal? Actions speak louder than words. Guiding principles are at the heart of how people exist. So look at the person in charge. What are their guiding principles? What do they praise? What do they admire? What do they chase after? Who do they want to be? Because they're going to try to become that person. And if someone is praising you, look, take their praises for what they're worth. Someone says you're pretty, take it as a compliment. Someone says you're ugly, understand how unimportant that is. Someone tells you you're pretty, understand how unimportant that is. Someone tells you you're ugly, well, apparently you look interesting enough that they're paying attention to you, take it as a compliment. Go back and forth. It's not about good or bad. It's about their guiding principles, and understand what they're actually saying, what they're actually communicating, not the words, but their eyes, their attention. Then you know more clearly who they are and who you're dealing with. Okay, so 35, loss and change, 2 words for the same thing. And this is interesting, right? We often feel we've lost something, lost a family member, or a house, a job, an opportunity, a pet, a room, a book, wealth, glory, fame, prettiness, so on and so on and so on. And he's saying, look, loss and change, 2 words for the same thing. You haven't lost something, you've changed into something else. You haven't lost a house and a farm and a family. You have changed into a new world. You've gained, all that you've lost, you've gained something for that. Even if it's just space. Even if it is just possibility. Even if it's just not being tied down. Are you poor? Do you live in the gutter? Nowhere to go but up. Are you rich? Do you live in the clouds? Nowhere to go but down. There is change and movement. How then can you say that an ill wind is fated to blow through the world forever? You do not know what the future brings. You only know that the future will be different than it is the present, right now. And the same as for the world, the same as for me. I'm never the same from day to day. I'm never exactly the person I was, nor the person I will be tomorrow. I'm in this process of becoming, in this process of change and movement. I myself am like the river no one can step into twice. Not the foot stepping into the river, no, the river itself. I am the earth which moves and changes slowly, imperceptible to the eye. The mountains rise, the hills are ground down, the seas dry, the lake fills up where once there were salt flats. The stars burn, the stars fade. A wind blows through, the wind blows the other way. All is change. And what I have right now is me. This is a part of reason as well. It's not a static reason, it is a moving reason. Like a headache that comes in and out. Okay. And this bit on 40, it says, he suggests this prayer. Rid me of my enemy is a prayer. But another prayer is, rid me of the desire to be rid of my enemy. Or this one, do not take my dear child from me is a prayer. But another prayer is, may I not fear the loss of my child. He says, turn your prayers in this direction and see what comes of it. Basically, he's saying, I don't control the world. I don't control my enemies. I don't control whether all my sons die. And I can sit here in the temple on my knees praying to my ancestors that they save the child, that they bring down my enemies. They get me the job. And I can't control that. I'm not even sure the gods control that. But what I can do, for sure, is not suffer overmuch because my enemy has escaped again, or my child has died. How do I survive in a world which is cruel and terrible and full of heartache or headaches? By understanding that this too shall pass, by understanding that this is not who and what I am. It's only a pain. It's only a fade. One day I'll die and my head will not hurt anymore. I hope. Maybe I'll go to sleep. I'll wake up tomorrow. My head won't hurt anymore. I have had pets that died, and the pain, it never really goes away. It never really heals. But one day you can walk into the pet food aisle of the store and not want to burst into tears crying. One day you can get a new cat and not feel this deep, horrible chill within your soul of oncoming doom. Because we aren't the same person we were yesterday. And we can look at change, see it as horrible. We can look at the world, see it as horrible. But if you're not going to give up, if you're not going to die, if you're going to stay here and live, then you might as well try to thrive. And he suggests this is how you do it. He suggests this stoic way of life, of attending to reason, not letting yourself be controlled by momentary impulses, by linking your own power with the power of the universe itself. So here in 42, he says, ask yourself, what virtue has nature given me to cope with this vice? The antibody against loutish behavior, for example, is gentleness. Against every vice, there is a power to combat it, and broadly speaking, you have the power to help any man find his way. The wrongdoer is, after all, merely missing his true mark and has lost his way. Besides, how has he harmed you? None of those with whom you're upset has done a thing to impair your ability to think. No evil or harm can come to you except your thinking let it. So this bit here, against every vice, there's a power to combat it. And you have the power to help any man find his way. Why? Because I, with my voice, with my actions, with my existence, with my life, can communicate with this person, with this lout, with this evil, horrid, with this stranger who is confused and worried and scared, right? And no matter who they are, they too are human. They too are like me. They too are able to reason. They have hearts and minds. And the way Marcus Aurelius sees the world is that human beings and the rats and the animals and the clouds and the trees and the gods and the stars and the earth below and the flowing water and the songs and the swords and the poison and the thunder are all part of reality. They're all one with the reason for existence itself. We are not so separate from the rock or the hare. We're certainly not so different from the man or the woman. We have reason and we can communicate. And all these things that people do to me, they only affect my outer form. They are only forced upon me in a physical fashion, not in my own mental state. PTSD happens and it can be overcome. People are assaulted, or people have childhood traumas, and those can be overcome. You can renew yourself, because this is existence, this is life, this is change, and everything changes. You yourself change. The powerless can become the powerful, and they can always achieve this by mastering themselves, by finding what makes them tick and what they need to do or see in order to feel that their life has meaning. It's not about succeeding. It's about doing in the first place, not how it all ends or feels. It's what is it? What is the action? What is the purpose? What is the reason? Who am I? And it doesn't matter if my hands and fingers and toes and tongue and eyes are cut off. I'm still me. It doesn't matter if people betray me or lie to me or attack me. I'm still me. It doesn't matter if I'm rich and famous or if I'm poor and destitute. I am still me. All those other things, they fade and go, and there maybe are barbarians at the gates. There may be folk who toss me in a gulag, but I can always close my eyes, take a deep breath, focus, center, and find happiness in this way. This is the surest route. This is the only sure route for asking, what can I do? I can master and direct and open myself to reason, becoming thereby a being with the universe and not fearing death or pain. Those two will one day fade.